Brady Caldwell had always dreamed of retiring by the water. After 2 decades of 14-hour shifts managing warehouses, the quiet property he found at the edge of Larkstone Ridge felt like a reward. A single-story cedar cabin with tall pine trees, shading the back, and just beyond the tree line a shimmering blue lake that mirrored the sky. The best part? His deed included the sloped grassy strip leading down to the water. It was secluded, serene, and legally his. Within days of moving in, Brady did what any man craving peace would do. He hung a hammock. Thick knotted rope between 2 pine trees, the kind that swayed gently in the breeze. He spent his mornings drinking coffee there and his evenings napping with a book on his chest. It was paradise. Until the red slip appeared, it was flapping on his front door, sealed in plastic. Brady leaned in, confused. HOA violation notice, Category 2. Unauthorized outdoor fixture. Immediate removal required. He blinked. Outdoor? Fixture. The only thing new on his property was the hammock. He scanned the rest of the notice. Vague citations of community aesthetics and encroachment on shared space. He hadn't even unpacked all his boxes yet. That's when he saw her. Across the street, standing rigidly behind a pair of potted hydrangeas, was a woman with thin lips, a clipboard in one hand, and a walkie-talkie in the other. Her polo shirt read Larkstone HOA. She didn't wave. She just raised one eyebrow, turned, and walked off like she'd completed a mission. Brady tossed the notice onto his kitchen counter and chuckled. They must have sent that to the wrong house. But 2 days later, another one came. This time, hand-delivered. And this time the violation was more aggressive. Repeat infraction, non-removal may result in fines. Final warning. Brady didn't find it funny anymore. He pulled out the folder from his closing documents and flipped to the property map. His land clearly extended well past the trees, including the narrow trail that followed the lake. Confused, he called the HOA number listed on the notice. No answer. So he left a message. The next morning, someone rang his doorbell at 7:04 a.m. He opened it. Half asleep, and there she was, a Genge clipboard Karen, as he'd later come to call her. This time with a tight smile and 2 more board members behind. I assume you received our notices, Mr. Caldwell, she said. That hammock violates community policy. It's on HOA land. Brady motioned behind her. That tree is 20 feet into my backyard. The land sloping to the lake is on my deed. Karen's smile vanished. The lakeside strip is community property. That's been the case for over 15 years. Brady narrowed his eyes. That's not what my title company told me. Of the other board members, a balding man who looked like he hadn't smiled since the 90s mattered. You might want to check again. We've had issues with new homeowners thinking they own more than they do. Brady crossed his arms. I bought this place because of that strip, the hammock staying. Karen's nostrils flared. She pulled out a form from her clipboard, flipped it around, and pointed to a signature line. Then I'll have to escalate this final notice. Brady didn't sign, and as they walked off, Karen whispered into her walkie-talkie. Loud enough for Brady to hear, non-compliant. Might need to call it in. Brady spent the next few days thinking maybe they'd back off. Surely. After realizing he wasn't some clueless newcomer, they'd pull their focus elsewhere. After all, there had to be actual problems. In the neighborhood, barking dogs, illegal sheds, unmowed lawns. But instead, things escalated. On Monday morning while brewing coffee, Brady spotted a man with a yellow safety vest walking the slope of his yard. Clipboard in hand, the guy crouched near the trees where the hammock once hung, scribbled something, then snapped a photo of the ground. Brady stepped outside. Can I help you? The man glanced up, startled. HOA inspection. Documenting. Usage of the shared property. Brady laughed. That shared property is mine. The man shrugged. Take it up with the board. By Wednesday, a new notice had arrived. This time, it wasn't just about the hammock. It now listed 3 separate violations: unauthorized landscaping modification, unregistered outdoor structure, and a brand new one: failure to comply with visual standards of Larkstone. Ridge Brady stared at the paper in disbelief. What visual standard did a hammock violate? It wasn't neon pink. It wasn't covered in skulls. It was beige in canvas, and it fit the forested lake vibe perfectly. But this wasn't about aesthetics. This was about control. He started asking around. First, his next-door neighbor, Diane, who had lived there for 11 years. Okay. She sighed and nodded. Karen's been like this since she got elected president. She'll pick something harmless and turn it into a crusade. Last year, it was hanging wind chimes. Said they disrupted the acoustic harmony of the neighborhood. Brady shook his head. This is harassment. Diane leaned in. Be careful. You're not the first one she's tried to break. That evening, Brady called the title company that had handled his property sale. Wanted confirmation. Receipts, a copy of the most current plat map. The title rep emailed him back within an hour. Confirmed. Parcel 1782B includes the lakeside slope and all land to the high water mark. Attached is the survey and deed copy. There it was, in black and white. But it didn't end there Friday night. As the sun dipped low and cast golden streaks across, the lake Brady strung the hammock back up. He didn't even lie in it. Tied it between the trees and sat nearby with a beer, watching ducks glide through the water. 10 minutes later, silver SUV pulled up. Karen stepped out, phone already. In her hand, "You were warned, Mr. Caldwell." Brady stood. "I did my research. That land is mine. This is harassment." Karen lifted her phone. "Then you'll be explaining that to the sheriff." "I've already called." Brady blinked. "You're calling the cops? Over a hammock?" Karen's expression was icy. "Over destruction of common property and refusal to comply with HOA orders." Brady didn't respond. He walked back to his porch, calm but boiling inside. If she wanted a fight, he'd give her one in paper, in court. And with every neighbor watching, in the distance. The faint sound of sirens began to echo down the ridge, and Brady smiled to himself. Because when the police showed up, he'd be ready. The red and blue lights splashed across Brady's porch as the sheriff's cruiser rolled to a stop at the end of his gravel driveway. The stillness of the lake was shattered by the crunch of tires and the low murmur of a police radio. Karen stood near the road, arms folded like she was about to receive an award. Her phone was still recording, angled just enough to catch Brady's face. Brady stepped down from his porch as the deputy exited his vehicle. The officer was tall, older, and already looked annoyed before anyone said a word. "Evening, sir." He said, "We've got a report of a civil disturbance involving property misuse." Brady gestured to the beige hammock hanging between 2 trees. "That's the disturbance." The deputy raised an eyebrow. "That's it?" Kieran stepped forward. "He's refusing to remove unauthorized fixtures from common land. That's HOA property. He's in violation of multiple rules and has been for over a week." The officer looked back at Brady. "You got proof this is your land?" Without missing a beat, Brady pulled a folder from the porch bench. Inside was a printed deed, a certified copy of the parcel map, and a letter from the title company confirming property boundaries. The deputy took a few minutes reviewing it, turning the papers under the glow of his flashlight. Karen hovered anxiously, peeking over his shoulder. He could have made that at home. The deputy glanced at her. "These are official. County seals, surveyor stamps, and they match what I have in the parcel database." He turned to Brady. "Far as I can tell, you're on your land. This is a civil issue, not a criminal one." Karen's jaw dropped. "So you're not going to do anything?" The deputy looked tired. "Ma'am, we don't enforce HOA policy. You've got a legal disagreement, take it to small claims or your lawyer. But this isn't a police matter." Brady resisted the urge to grin as the officer returned to his cruiser. Karen hissed under her breath. "You're not going to win." You have no idea how this neighborhood works. Brady stared at her, calm and measured. No, Karen, you have no idea what I'm capable of. He watched her march off, still ranting into her phone as the SUV peeled away. Back inside, Brady sat at his kitchen table, the adrenaline finally settling into cold resolve. The hammock wasn't the issue anymore. It never had been. The HOA had claimed land they didn't own, and Karen was doubling down because she thought she could intimidate him into backing off. But she'd made a fatal misstep. She brought the law into it, and now Brady had a paper trail video footage from his porch. Camera, official documents, and a police report on file that would verify she had falsely reported him for property misuse. He opened his laptop and began drafting an email to his old friend Rick, a licensed surveyor who owed him a favor. Brady wanted official stakes driven into the ground, a formal survey. With photos, GPS logs, everything. This wasn't going to be a conversation anymore. This was going to be a case. And as Brady looked out the window, the hammock swaying gently in the breeze like a flag of defiance, he realized something. Karen had just declared war on the wrong man by Monday morning. Rick's old Ford pickup rolled up the gravel drive, mud still crusted on the tires from his last job. Rick Malone was as nonsense as they came, a licensed surveyor for nearly 30 years. Clipboard in one hand, ground-penetrating GPS scanner in the other. Still got the hammock up. I see. Rick smirked as he stepped out. Now it's personal. Brady replied. Together, they walked the land. Rick marked every pin and stake, carefully checking against the property plat. The thick trees along the lake, the gentle slope, the bench Karen liked to sit on. All of it was examined with laser-level precision. A few hours in, Rick stopped. Brady, he said, frowning. You're not going to believe this. What? Rick held out the tablet. A digital map flickered on screen with flashing markers. Not only is that hammock sitting well within your property line, that trail, the one they said was common use? Yeah, it's on your land. The entire shoreline path. From the edge of your driveway to the boat dock, every inch of it falls inside your parcel. Brady's heart skipped. The dock, he repeated. Rick nodded. Yep, the dock, the benches, even one of the little HOA trail signs, it's all sitting on private land. Brady stared at the GPS overlay, barely believing it. For years, the HOA had maintained and used this land as if they owned it. Funded a dock installation, held weekend yoga sessions on the grass, and even landscaped the shoreline. All without permission. They were trespassing. Rick continued, and here's the kicker. I pulled up the original development survey from the county archives. The HOA property boundary ends way up the hill near the mailbox cluster. They never owned this slope. I think someone just assumed, then ran with it. Brady stood silent, a slow grin forming. You think they know? They do? Rick said. They've been pretending not to. That night, Brady sat at his computer, uploading photos from Rick's drone. Each image was time-stamped and layered with parcel overlays. He saved every file twice, one on his hard drive and another on an encrypted backup. Then he called his lawyer. Monica Delaney had been his legal advisor for years. Smart, sharp, and ruthless when she had to be. After reviewing the documents, she said only one word: perfect. She explained the next steps. The HOA had built and maintained structures on private property without easement or permission. That meant not just civil damages, but potential personal liability for any continued trespass. And since they'd issued fines and threatened legal action on land that wasn't theirs, we could go after them, Monica said, for harassment, property violation, and defamation. Brady exhaled. He wasn't just going to defend his hammock. He was going to take the entire HOA to court, and this time, they were going to be the ones answering for violations. But first, he had to give them a chance to walk away. So the next morning, Brady posted something new next to his hammock. A large wooden sign mounted on steel stakes, reading private property. Trespassers will be recorded and prosecuted. He made sure the HOA trail sign was visible in the background, just enough to stir panic. And sure enough, by sunset, Karen was pacing along the street again. Only this time, her hands were empty. No clipboard, no walkie-talkie, no smug expression, just fear. Because she finally realized the land she thought she ruled never belonged to her. By Tuesday afternoon, the HOA board had called an emergency meeting. Brady knew this because Diane, his quietly observant neighbor, texted him just as the cars began arriving. "They're panicking," she wrote. Karen looked like she bit a lemon soaked in gasoline. Brady didn't reply. Instead, he sat in his living room, watching the cars line up at the HOA clubhouse through binoculars. Like a nature documentary. Lexus, Tesla, BMW, and finally, Karen's silver SUV, Dot. She stepped out clutching a manila folder, stiff-backed and stone-faced. Flanked by two younger board members who clearly didn't want to be there, Brady smiled to himself. The private property sign had done its job. He had seen two HOA volunteers earlier that morning walk halfway down the trail before freezing mid-step, staring at the sign like it was radioactive. They turned around without saying a word. Inside the clubhouse, the board sat around the long oak table under fluorescent lights that buzzed a little too loudly. Karen slapped down Brady's printed deed and survey photos. "This is a threat," she snapped. "He's trying to intimidate us. He's misreading the plat." Board member Doug, the same balding guy from earlier, hesitated. "Actually, talked to someone at the county assessor's office this morning. They confirmed his parcel extends past the trail." Karen froze. "You what?" Doug shrugged. "We should have verified it before sending the violation letters. If we're on his land, we might have overstepped." "That's putting it mildly," said Jenny, the newest board member, quietly scrolling through emails on her tablet. He lawyered up. "Karen, did you know that? Monica Delaney, she's good." An expensive Karen's hand twitched. "We can't just let him win. That slope has been HOA managed for 15 years. If we give it up now, everyone's going to start challenging boundaries." "This is about order." Jenny looked up. "Or it's about you trying to control something that was never yours." Outside, Brady was printing one last letter, this one addressed to every homeowner in Larkstone Ridge. It was short, clear, powerful, "Dear neighbors. After reviewing the legal property lines of parcel 1782B, it has been confirmed via licensed survey and title deed that the land extending from my rear property to the lake, including the trail and dock, is private property. Any future unauthorized use or enforcement attempts by the HOA on this land will be considered trespassing. I recommend reviewing your own property lines. You may be surprised at what you actually own or what's being taken from you, without question. Sincerely, Brady Caldwell." By Wednesday morning, 47 of those letters had been hand-delivered. One to every mailbox in the neighborhood. The effect was nuclear. By lunchtime, Brady received his first knock at the door. A retired couple named Susan and Carl, who lived down the ridge. "We had no idea," Carl said. "Karen always told us the HOA owned the lake access. We never checked." "You're not alone," Brady replied. Carl nodded grimly. "You're the first one to push back." That afternoon, 5 more neighbors stopped by DAT, and by nightfall, Brady had a stack of printed screenshots from Nextdoor threads and Facebook posts. Everyone was talking, questioning, digging into their deeds. Karen's kingdom of quiet control was crumbling. Not because of confrontation, but because someone had simply read the paperwork and said, no. But she wasn't done yet. At 9:12 p.m. Brady's porch camera captured her sneaking onto his slope, flashlight in hand, tiptoeing toward the trail sign, and behind her back, a can of black spray paint. She didn't know the camera had night vision, but she was about to find out. The next morning, Brady didn't bother checking the trail. He already knew what had happened. His porch cam, mounted under the eaves and invisible from the ground, had captured every second of Karen's midnight operation the flashlight beam, the black spray paint, the nervous glances over her shoulder, and finally the word private, being sprayed over until it was illegible. She even left the cat behind. Brady played the footage back twice, slow and then real time. Her face was clear, her HOA badge visible on her lanyard. She had no idea. She'd just committed criminal trespass and vandalism on camera. He calmly packaged the video into a clean clip, time-stamped and watermarked. Then he added it to a digital drive already labeled HOA evidence, Phase 2, before noon. Brady had printed a formal letter to the board. No emotion, no insults. Just facts. To the Larkstone Ridge HOA board. Attached is photographic and video evidence showing your president, Karen Wills, trespassing and defacing private property at 9:12 p.m. last night. This act constitutes vandalism and unlawful trespass under state law. As the property owner, I am within my rights to press charges and pursue damages. However, will withhold action temporarily under the following conditions. Immediate written apology from Ms. Wills delivered to my home and to all residents. Formal retraction of all fines and violation notices issued regarding my hammock. Public correction from the board clarifying the true boundaries of parcel 1782. B. You have 72 hours to comply. He copied the message to Monica Delaney, his lawyer. 3 hours later, Karen was at his door. Brady didn't answer. He watched her from inside as she stood, paper in hand, face pale. She rang twice, then walked away slowly, shoulders slumped. She didn't leave the apology. Instead, she left a note, her own version of a warning. This isn't over. You don't understand what you've started, but Brady wasn't intimidated. In fact, he was about to escalate that night. He attended the monthly HOA meeting for the first time. He didn't sit in the back like most newcomers. He walked right to the front, handed a flash drive to the tech guy running the projector, and turned to the board. I think everyone should see what your president did last night, said. Karen's face drained of color. The room fell to a hush as the screen lit up, the black and white footage of her sneaking through the trees. Flashlight in hand, caught in perfect HD. The gasps were immediate. Is that? She really? Oh my God. Karen stood up, stammering. This is edited. It's taken out of context. Brady calmly pulled out the county parcel map. And this, he said, is the context. The room erupted into questions, angry voices, people waving their own deeds and property maps. A woman near the front demanded Karen step down immediately. Someone else shouted, "We've been lied to for years." It was chaos. But to Brady, it was the sound of the walls closing in on Karen Wills. He didn't need to press charges. She was already being eaten alive by the community she once ruled. And the best part? It wasn't done yet. Karen didn't show her face for the next 3 days, her once daily patrol's clipboard in hand. Sunglasses like armor vanished. No HOA memos. No suspicious cars crawling past Brady's house. Silence. But the neighborhood wasn't. Quiet. The video had gone viral within Larkstone Ridge. Every group chat, every private Facebook page, every neighborhood app was flooded with it. And then came the avalanche of questions. Did she find me illegally too? Who else had their lawn violations mysteriously disappear after a complaint? Wait, are we even allowed to vote on new board members? The illusion of control had shattered. And Karen's board was rapidly falling apart. Jenny, the youngest member, publicly resigned on day 2. Doug tried to distance himself with a post that read, "I was misled and pressured into signing off on violation notices. I deeply regret it." 2 others ghosted entirely, refusing to answer calls or emails. Brady, meanwhile, was busy. He wasn't interested in just surviving this mess. He was planning the next phase. His lawyer, Monica, drafted a formal cease and desist order that named not only Karen, but the Larkstone Ridge HOA as a whole It referenced false fines issued on misrepresented land and lawful trespass and damage to private property, malicious enforcement of non-applicable HOA regulations, but the true hammer came in the form of a civil lawsuit filed at the county clerk's office on a Friday afternoon and served Monday morning. Brady Caldwell versus Larkstone Ridge HOA seeking damages of $45,000 for harassment, trespass, defamation, and property damage. Monica explained the strategy perfectly. This lawsuit isn't just about winning. It's about forcing discovery, emails, memos, internal votes. All of it becomes public record. Brady didn't care about the money, he wanted the truth. And on day 5, a neighbor named Mr. Eldridge, a quiet Vietnam vet who had lived at the edge of the neighborhood for 20 years, knocked on Brady's door. He held a thick binder, yellowed with time. "I kept everything," he said, his voice low. "They forced me to pay $3,000 in landscape violations 10 years ago. I told them they were wrong. They didn't care." "In?" Brady asked. Eldridge nodded. "Absolutely." Within 48 hours, the story had grown from one man and a hammock to a potential class action lawsuit. The media caught wind. A local reporter reached out. Her email subject line read, "HOA scandal in the valley, seeking interview." Karen finally broke her silence in a shaky email to the community. "I deeply regret any confusion or distress my actions may have caused. I have always acted in what I believed was the best interest of the neighborhood." Brady read it once, then deleted it. There was no apology, no acceptance of fault, just damage control. But he didn't need her to admit anything anymore, because now the entire neighborhood had turned on her. Lawn signs began to pop up, like spring weeds. "No more KARENS, recall the board, property rights matter." And Brady, he was just getting started because on his desk sat one last vanilla folder unopened. Inside was a permit request he had quietly submitted the week before. Not for a fence, not for a deck, but for a private dock extension. 30 feet into the lake, built legally on his land. And now, blocking all HOA lake access entirely. The dock arrived in pieces on a flatbed truck just after sunrise. 30 feet of weather-treated redwood. Reinforced aluminum railing. Solar lights lining each edge like landing strips on an airport runway. Brady stood barefoot on his lawn sipping coffee as the contractors unloaded each beam. The HOA had no legal say anymore. Monica had made sure of that. The permit was official. The land was indisputably his. The lake access, now completely blocked from the HOA trail by the new dock's side fencing by mid-afternoon. Neighbors began to gather, quietly at first, drawn by the echoing thuds of construction and the unmistakable smell of fresh-cut wood. Children pointed. Phones recorded. Even Eldridge brought a lawn chair and posted up like it was game day. "Looks beautiful." Later, a silver SUV screeched to a halt by the trail. Karen jumped out, hair disheveled, phone already recording. "You can't block the lake," she shouted, stomping toward the fence line. Brady didn't even look up from his clipboard. "This fence is on private property. The survey says so. The court says so. Even your own lawyer says so." She looked like she might explode. "You don't understand what you're doing. This ruins community access." Brady finally turned to face her. "You trespassed. You painted over my signs. You fined me for putting up a hammock on my own land. You ruined your own access, not me." She took a shaky breath. "This isn't how it used to be." "Exactly," he said. "It's better now." Just then, Monica appeared from behind the work truck, folder in hand. Karen blinked. "What is she doing here?" "Delivering your settlement terms," Monica said cheerfully. "Since the HOA declined mediation, we filed for full damages. You've got 15 days to respond." Karen grabbed the papers, scanning them in disbelief. "You're suing the entire board?" "No," Brady corrected. "I'm suing you, the board, and every officer who signed off on harassment or unauthorized enforcement. And by the way, Class action just hit 12 plaintiffs. Terrans. Face went blank. No HOA insurance covers personal misconduct, Monica added. That's out of pocket, Karen. She staggered backward, speechless. The crowd behind her was growing now. People murmuring, whispering, recording it was over. Karen turned and walked away without a word. By sunset, the dock was complete. Shining, stable, elegant, and entirely his. Brady placed one final touch, a hand-carved sign on the dock's gate. Private access only. Former HOA members, welcome by invite. It was petty. It was perfect. In the days that followed, the board voted to suspend all activities pending legal review. Jenny returned this time to lead the charge for lead the charge. Or if we're at lead the charge for a Lamilskes if you're using like a scanner app, and it's like we're scanner. A new HOA charter that focused on transparency, consent, and homeowner rights. Brady didn't want a seat on the board. He already had what he wanted, his land, his peace, his hammock, and the freedom to enjoy all of it without someone pretending they owned him. As the summer rolled on, he hosted cookouts on the dock. Kayaks launched from the side ramp. Neighbors, who once feared fines, now came to him with questions, smiles, and stories of their own, run-ins with the old guard. Brady lay back on the same hammock that started it all, swaying gently under a pink sunset, listening to the quiet waves lap beneath his dock. No signs, no fines, no karens, just the breeze. And justice.